Let's jump right into this explainer. We're looking at a truly wild narrative today, a story that sits right at the intersection of advanced physics and ancient scripture. Our source material takes us to the island of Murano, specifically the Institute of Glass Physics. And what we're exploring is a tale that completely challenges the boundaries between material science and acoustic resonance.
So here is the million-dollar question driving our analysis. Can the sound of a human voice physically change the molecular structure of glass? It sounds straight out of a sci-fi novel, right? But today, we're going to unpack how the source material tests exactly this premise, whether acoustic resonance, specifically from a human, can actually manipulate molecules at a fundamental structural level.
Section 1. Science versus belief.
We start with two main scientists who have wildly different perspectives. On one hand, we've got Dr. Zain. He's a physicist with a rather unique hypothesis. He believes the acoustic vibration of a specific Arabic phrase, Bismillah, can actually alter the path of light through glass. And then, right across the aisle is his colleague, Dr. Enzo. Enzo is a strict materialist. He insists glass is literally just a random silicon lattice, so the whole idea that spoken words could somehow change atomic bonds? To him, it's completely impossible, no way.
Section 2. An impossible experiment. To settle this intense debate, Zain and Enzo decide to set up an experiment. And honestly, the methodology is remarkably straightforward. They take 99.99% pure silica and melt it down in two identical furnaces at a scorching 800 degrees Celsius. The first batch is left to cool in absolute dead silence. But right next to the second furnace, they play a 1-hour human recitation of specific Quranic verses while that glass hardens.
Now, the crucial point in the data is the glass transition temperature, or what scientists call the TG. Check this out. The silent glass transitioned at exactly 520 degrees Celsius. Pretty standard. But the glass exposed to the recitation, it transitioned at 521.5 degrees. That is a clear, measurable physical difference between the two batches.
521.5 degrees. Now, you might be wondering, so what? Well, an elevated transition temperature like that theoretically shouldn't happen just from ambient sound bouncing around a room. For Dr. Zain, this was a massive red flag, in a good way. It implied the internal structural energy of the glass itself had undeniably increased.
But of course, they had to be sure this wasn't just some weird fluke. So they verified the shift using differential scanning calorimetry, or DSC. It's a highly precise technique used to measure exactly how a material's heat capacity changes with temperature. And guess what? The DSC confirmed the temperature shift was absolutely real. The acoustic wave seemingly did something to the glass. But what exactly?
Section 3. Decoding the photonic crystal.
To figure out why that temperature changed, they zoomed way in using X-ray diffraction. And the results? Honestly, shocking. The silent glass looked exactly like you'd expect standard glass to look, just totally random nanoholes. Amorphous. But the recitation glass? It wasn't random anymore. The molecules had organized into a perfect hexagonal lattice. The spacing between these microscopic holes was exactly 532 nanometers. It's almost like microscopic pages of a book. By reorganizing into this incredibly precise lattice, the source claims the recitation had literally turned the silica into a photonic crystal. If you're not familiar, a photonic crystal is a nanostructured material where the holes are arranged specifically to block certain wavelengths of light while enhancing others. Essentially, the sound programmed the glass.
Well, Enzo is still playing the skeptic here, right? He assumes this has to be some sort of thermal anomaly. So he programs a computer-controlled furnace to match the exact temperature and cooling rate, literally down to the microsecond. But here's where the narrative takes a turn. When his computer-generated glass is analyzed, it completely fails to form that beautiful lattice. It just reverts back to being random amorphous glass.
And this is exactly where Dr. Zain steps in to explain the missing variable, acoustic formants. You see, a computer's thermal profile just can't perfectly mimic the nuanced shear force of actual human speech. When a human recites the text, you get these sub-40 Hz vibrations and specific resonant frequencies produced by the vocal tract. That physically applies acoustic pressure, physically turning those silica molecules.
Section 4. Power of sound, path of light.
So they decide to dig deeper and test different voice prints. Using a tool called a Faraday rotator to measure polarization, they find that the word Bismillah shifted the silicon-oxygen bonds by 0.3 degrees. But when Enzo steps up and tests the word hello, the shift is like 0.001 degrees, basically indistinguishable from background noise. For the team, this was the smoking gun, proving it was the specific acoustic structure of the Arabic doing the heavy lifting.
Enzo runs the math, and he discovers this absolutely fascinating acoustic alignment. The data shows that the nasal format of the Arabic letter meme hits 250 Hz, which achieves perfect resonance with the stretching vibrational mode of the silica lattice. The human voice was literally hitting the exact frequency required to mechanically stretch and orient those molecular bonds. Which brings us to the real breathtaking climax of this narrative. Remember that specific 532 nanometer spacing of the lattice we talked about earlier? Well, 532 nanometers just so happens to be the exact wavelength of a standard green laser. So, what happens when you shoot a green laser, matching that exact wavelength, directly into this newly formed crystal?
According to the source, the light from the laser actually becomes trapped in the photonic band gap of the lattice. Instead of just passing straight through, it diffracts, and it projects onto the wall of the dark lab as a massive glowing golden hologram of the exact Arabic text that had been recited to the glass: Allah is the light of the heavens and the earth. The glass had structurally recorded the sound, and when you illuminated it, it played it back visually. Just wild.
Seeing this literal glowing text on the wall, Enzo's first reaction is, we have to patent this. He wants to manufacture and sell this incredible photonic glass. But Dr. Zane profoundly redirects the credit. He refuses, telling Enzo, if you want to patent this, patent the name of the creator who taught silicon atoms to arrange in a hexagon. I just held a pipette. Zane essentially views his role not as an inventor, but just a facilitator of a pre-existing natural design.
Section 5. The Nanophotonics of the Quran.
This realization profoundly shifted Enzo's entire worldview. The source material suggests that 1,400-year-old metaphors found in these Quranic verses actually map precisely to the modern physics of nanophotonics. Think about it. The mishkat, or niche, acts as the nanolattice. The zujaja, the glass, acts as the medium, and the nur, or light, is the precise diffraction pattern that emerges from it all. So, what was long considered purely allegorical by many people is presented here as a literal specification for a physics lab. It's a fascinating interpretation. It suggests the text describes a specific phase of matter, a state where acoustic energy pre-stresses the molecular lattice, stripping photons of their randomness and giving them a highly specific structural directional path.
Today, the narrative tells us this exact piece of glass rests in a museum in Venice. Enzo, the guy who started as a strict materialist, was forever changed by the experiment. He actually works at that museum now. And every single day, before turning on the laser to project that golden hologram for the visitors, he quietly recites Bismillah, acting as a living bridge between physical science and deep conviction.
I'm going to leave you with this final thought to chew on. If the specific acoustic formants of our human voices actually possess the power to mechanically reorder the molecular lattice of solidifying glass, what unseen structures in our bodies, our environments, and our lives are being shaped by the words we choose to speak every single day? Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep questioning the world around you.